peculiar little mythical creature known as the squonk reputes to live in the Hemlock forest of northern Pennsylvania. Legends of squonks probably originated in the late 19th century at the height of Pennsylvania's importance in the timber industry. The earliest known written account of squonks comes from a book that we might be familiar with from the Slide Rock Bolter case by William T. Cox, called Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods with a Few Desert and Mountain Beasts. Cox's account is reprinted in Jorge Luis Borges' Book of Imaginary Beings. The squonk allegedly lives in the Hemlock forest of the state, and Cox was making a point with the squonk and some of the other creatures in his book because when he was writing there was a very real possibility that the Hemlock forests of Pennsylvania were gone forever due to overharvesting. The part containing the squonk in Cox's book is mainly comprised of just two simple paragraphs. Cox writes, "Probably the homeliest animal in the world and knows it. The distribution was once fairly wide, the usual habitat being high plains where the desert vegetation was abundant. History shows beyond dispute that at these areas gradually changed to swampy, lake-dotted country, the squonk was forced to take to the water. Of distinctly low mentality, it traveled constantly around the unaccustomed marshes in search of fodder. With time, it developed webbing between its toes, but only on the submerged left feet. Hence, on entering the water, it could swim only in circles and never got back to shore. Fossil bones dredged from these lake bottoms reveal that thousands perished of starvation in this manner. Today, the squonk is met with solely in the Hemlock forests of Pennsylvania. It is a most retiring, bashful, crepuscular animal, garbed in a loose, warty, singularly ill-fitting skin. The squonk is always unhappy, even morbid. He is given to constant weeping over his really upsetting appearance, and can sometimes be tracked by his tear-stained trail. Moonlight nights are best for squonk hunts, for then the animal prefers to lie quiet in its hemlock home, fearing, should it venture forth, that it may catch a glimpse of itself in some moonlit pool. Sometimes you can hear one weeping softly to himself. The sound is a low note of pleading, somewhat resembling the call of the cross-feathered snee. Henry Tryon embellished the Cox description in his 1939 book, Fearsome Creatures. He writes, "The range of the squonk is very limited. Few people outside of Pennsylvania have ever heard of the quaint beast, which is said to be fairly common in the hemlock forests of that state. The squonk is a very retiring disposition, generally traveling about at twilight and dusk. Because of its misfitting skin, which is covered with warts and moles, it is always unhappy. In fact, it is said by people who are best able to judge to be the most morbid of beasts. Hunters who are good at tracking are able to follow a squonk by its tear-stained trail, for the animal weeps constantly. When cornered and escape seems impossible, or when surprised and frightened, it may even dissolve itself in its own tears. Squonk hunters are most successful on frosty moonlit nights, when tears are shed slowly and the animal dislikes moving about. It may then be heard weeping under the boughs on dark hemlock trees." Mr. J.P. Wentling, formerly of Pennsylvania, but now at St. Anthony Park, Minnesota, had a disappointing experience with a squonk near Mont Alto. He made a clever capture by mimicking the squonk and inducing it to hop into a sack, in which he was carrying it home, when suddenly the burden lightened and weeping ceased. Wentling unslung the sack and looked in. There was nothing but tears and bubbles. Even though the squonk is clearly part of Pennsylvania's folklore and nothing more than William Cox's creation, you never know. Maybe go take a walk through the hemlocks and listen out for distant crying. Just don't go checking it out if you hear it. Hey everyone, if you liked what you heard, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Cryptid minis and more of the Unknown Files here on Unknown Territory. Thanks for listening.